Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're staring down the barrel of a purchasing process that's just bursting at the seams right now, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're stepping in as your guide through what is honestly a completely unhinged research project. We're talking about combining 3 separate research passes from 2025 and 2026, covering roughly 30 different procurement tools across the US and Europe. We've totally stripped away the marketing jargon to sort this incredibly crowded field by the actual problems each tool solves. So, buckle up because we're going to completely change how you look at buying procurement software. $9 to $10 billion. Yeah, that's billion with a B. That is the massive estimated size of the procurement software market in 2025, according to research firms like Mortar Intelligence, Grandview Research, and Fortune Business Insights. But here's the secret most software vendors absolutely do not want to admit. That number wobbles a lot. It totally depends on who is defining the category. We're intentionally showing you this figure and its uncertainty in the exact same breath. Why? Because a buyer's guide that hides the uncertainty of such a vast, fragmented space, that's just marketing with footnotes. You really need to know the landscape you're navigating is incredibly complex. Okay, let's dive into this, because the most honest thing you'll hear about the industry today is right here. There is literally no single winner. We need to completely dismantle the myth of the top 10 ranked software list. We all love ranked lists, right? They feel safe. But in procurement, they are entirely useless. The tool ranked number 1 by some tech blog might be built for a multinational corporation 10 times your size. If you buy it, you're buying a disaster. The whole goal of this explainer is to get you to the one tool that fits your specific bottleneck right now, without paying a fortune for all the rest. To do that, we first need to deconstruct what this vague term actually means. So, Section 1, the 4 core procurement jobs. Let's break this down. You see, the term procurement software is honestly just a blanket label. On the shelf, they all look like they do the exact same thing. But under the hood, this label is hiding at least 6 entirely different products. It's like a giant puzzle. You've got intake tools, heavy procure-to-pay systems, accounts payable engines, corporate card platforms, and even embedded workflows inside tools your team already uses. These products might compete for shelf space, sure, but they rarely actually compete for the exact same buyer. Once we strip away all that marketing fluff, we can finally see the actual machinery of what these tools are supposed to do. So the crucial point is that the entire software category basically boils down to just 4 constant jobs. First up, intake. This is turning, hey, I need to buy this, from an evaporating Slack message into a real structured request. Second, approval. Routing that request to the exact right people based on rules you set. Third, ordering. Turning that approved request into a real purchase order a supplier can actually act on. And fourth, visibility. Showing finance the committed spend before an unexpected invoice arrives and completely ruins their afternoon. That's it. Those are the 4 jobs. Everything past this, like strategic sourcing, global payments, supplier risk scoring, is just an expensive addition you're paying extra to argue about. But before you even look at a vendor's feature list, we have to pivot and address Section 2, the geographical divide, US versus Europe. The location of your business fundamentally changes your software requirements. In the US market, companies might have the luxury of prioritizing user experience or flashy AI features. But in the European market, it's a completely different ballgame. In Europe, the Vita e-invoicing law and various national mandates are changing the landscape entirely. Over there, structured e-invoicing isn't just a nice feature to admire on a demo call. It's a strict legal requirement that absolutely must be checked off. If you're buying for a European footprint, this one legal filter sits above everything else on your list. No exceptions. Right. Now that we have our core jobs and geographic rules established, let's look at Section 3, market mapping, suites versus tools. Time to navigate this crowded jungle. And this brilliantly illustrates the real playing field. Look at how these tools group together. On the heavy end, you have your enterprise suites like SAP, Ariba, and Coupa. These are massive 7-figure commitments with deep source-to-pay capabilities and global reach. Moving to the middle, you have orchestration and mid-market tools like Zip and Procurify, much more agile, focusing on strong AI intake and mobile approvals. And finally, you have embedded workflows like Raley apps. Now, full disclosure, Raley apps actually compiled the underlying research we're referencing today, and they did it with complete transparency, specifically to show you exactly when you should not buy a massive suite and when a lighter touch is all you really need. This brings us to a golden rule I want you to remember. Match the tool to the pain, not to your headcount. Listen, you could take 2 completely identical companies sitting right across the street from each other with the exact same number of employees. But if Company A's purchasing breaks down at the intake stage because employees just won't fill out forms, and Company B's purchasing breaks down at the finance desk because invoices don't match purchase orders, they need completely different software. Your headcount does not dictate your software, your operational bottlenecks do. Which leads us to Section 4, and what I consider the absolute dark horse strategy for mid-market companies, using what you already own. Before you go out and buy anything new, look inward. The research data is incredibly clear on this. The cheapest win is often the software you already own. If you're in a Jira-first organization, where your IT, operations, and dev teams are already living and breathing inside Jira or Jira Service Management, trying to force them into a heavy, clunky ERP screen just to buy a software license is creating unnecessary friction. For these teams, purchasing doesn't need a massive new standalone home. It just needs to be a controlled, audited workflow inside the system they already keep open on their desktops all day long. Makes sense, right? Consider the concept of turning your existing Jira and JSM setup into the literal front door for all spend requests. By adding a Jira native procurement layer like Raley Procurement, you stop employees from having to memorize new logins or navigate foreign software. They just raise a ticket like they always do. But behind that ticket, you're creating a single, fully auditable flow from the moment they say, "I need this," to the moment the item is actually delivered. It beautifully bridges the gap between what employees find easy and what finance finds compliant. Let's move to and see how this builds into the actual interface. Without ever leaving the Atlassian ecosystem, your IT or finance teams can easily set up strict budgets and multi-tiered company approval routing rules right behind the scenes. You can literally tell the system, hey, if the IT department requests something over $5,000, automatically route it to the VP of Finance. This isn't some hacky workaround. It's deep, complex procurement logic happening natively inside an operating layer your company has already paid for and already trusts. And for the finance folks listening, the dashboard is where the magic really happens. Finance can finally conquer that fourth crucial job we talked about earlier, visibility. With an embedded workflow, finance gets a real-time, completely unified look at open requests, pending approvals, and most importantly, committed spend across departments and budgets. You can actually see the money you're about to spend long before that supplier invoice ever gets generated. It completely eliminates the blind spots that usually plague mid-market purchasing. To summarize this whole strategy, the core value proposition for mid-market buyers is remarkably simple yet powerful. You can absolutely achieve the 4 core jobs of procurement, intake, approval, ordering, and visibility through a fast, highly controlled workflow. And you can do it without the crushing heaviness, the endless implementation times, and the agonizing 7-figure annual contracts of those enterprise procurement suites. You're basically solving the problem with a scalpel instead of a sledgehammer. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one critical, provocative question to ask yourself before you even think about looking at a vendor's pricing page or booking a single software demo. Look at your team this week and ask, what specific part of your purchasing process is breaking right now? Figure out your exact pain, ignore the top 10 lists, and let that guide you to the right tool. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy building.